Welcome to Audio Tales AI, your destination for captivating stories. Today, we unveil a tale filled with unexpected and life-changing decisions. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and let's dive in.
I, 26 male, and my girlfriend, 27 female, met in college. We were in the same calculus class. She was smart, and I used that as an excuse to ask her for help with some of the work. I was an engineering major and understood math much better than she did. We flirted a lot and eventually started going out. We were together all 4 years of undergrad, and we lived together while we both attended separate grad schools in the city. I couldn't imagine a life without her. I had been with her for so long and saw so much of my future with her in it. I wanted to propose, but I wanted to do it when both of us were stable in our careers and truly ready for that step. Her family lived in Texas and we lived in New York, so she didn't get to see them often. I met them a few times, but didn't know them very well. She had a great relationship with them all, and they talked often. I knew that she missed them more than anything, but she was happy living in the city. One evening out of the blue, we got a phone call from her mother. Her sister was in a car accident and was in the ICU. She immediately packed a bag and bought the next plane ticket she could to go see her. I wanted to go with her, but we decided it would be best for me to stay behind for a day to let her work know and schedule someone to care for our dog. I did just that while she went ahead of me. While she was on the plane ride home, her mother called me and told me her sister passed away. I was heartbroken that I couldn't be there with her when she got the news. Her sister was one of her best friends. They were called twins because they were so similar. My girlfriend was 2 years younger than her, but they looked identical. And they sounded exactly the same. When she landed in Texas, her trip switched from visiting her injured sister to helping plan a funeral. I stayed behind longer than I expected at her suggestion. She didn't want me to leave work until they had a date planned for the funeral. We couldn't afford to spend a lot on dog boarding or a dog sitter, so the shorter my time in Texas, the better. I called her often to check in on her while she was away. As the time went on, it sounded like she was getting better. There were some times when she didn't answer, so I texted to check in on her. She would call me back later those nights and tell me that she had been at her sister's house going through some of her things. Her sister was married to a guy we'll call Joe. He was nice the few times I met him, but he seemed superficial to me. He wanted a big house, nice cars, and a hot wife, so that's exactly what he got in life. I always thought he wanted to marry my wife's sister because she would be the perfect trophy wife. I knew that spending time at her sister's house would mean spending time with him, but she was mourning. It never crossed my mind that they would start sleeping together. Eventually, I flew down for the funeral and finally got to be with my girlfriend again. I missed her and I felt terrible that I wasn't able to be with her while she was grieving. During the wake, Joe struck up a conversation with me and mentioned how sometimes he'd look at my girlfriend and see her sister. Then his eyes lingered on her much longer than I felt comfortable. I didn't say anything because he just lost his wife and everything. Afterwards, he kept mentioning how hard it was on my girlfriend and how I wasn't there. It seemed like he was trying to guilt-trip me. My girlfriend and I flew back to the city a couple of days after the funeral and started trying to get things back to normal. My girlfriend was still grieving, and a lot of things upset her. I'm just trying to be there for her. The only problem was that she wouldn't let me help her. Whenever I tried to comfort her, she would turn it down. When I tried to hold her at night, she turned away from me. She didn't even want to hold my hand. I thought all of that was her grieving and shutting me out for it. One day, I came home from work and found her in our bedroom trying on some clothes she brought back from Texas. They were all her sister's things, stuff that Joe bought for her before she died. I noticed that she was taking a lot of pictures in the clothes too. A few weeks later, she told me that Joe was coming to visit and would be crashing with us. He needed to get out of their house, and he had never been to New York, so she invited him. I felt bad being upset about it, but I was still annoyed with how he was at her during his wife's wake. And on top of that, nobody asked me if it was okay. Still, I didn't say anything because it was such a sensitive issue. My girlfriend was talking to him a lot leading up to his arrival. I would come home from work and see them FaceTime each other, talking about different places they were going to go when he was there. He called all the time, and they texted a lot too. They hadn't been that way before the funeral. It was rubbing me the wrong way, but I didn't know what to say to address it. I was aware that no matter what I said, I was going to come across like a jerk because both of them were mourning. Joe eventually arrived in the city and my girlfriend, and I helped him get settled in our apartment. My girlfriend worked from home, and I worked a few blocks away, so she was going to be alone with him most of the time. He was there. Micah was telling me not to trust it. I hadn't seen anything that directly told me there was something going on with them. I just had a feeling that their relationship had changed immensely since the funeral, and it was gnawing at me. I let my imagination run wild thinking of all the conversations they had over text messages or while I wasn't there. My girlfriend looked exactly like her sister. There was no doubt in my mind that Joe would be attracted to her. He probably had always been. One afternoon while I was working, I sent my girlfriend a text message asking her if she wanted me to grab food on my way home. Normally, she would respond to my messages within half an hour. Even if she was in a meeting, she would still be on her phone and texting. That time, however, she didn't respond at all. I was a little bit worried, so I left work a couple of hours early to go home and make sure everything was all right. Before I put the key in the door, I heard some very alarming noises on the other end. It was clear that someone was doing it at the apartment. As quietly as I could, I put my key in the door and opened it to find my girlfriend wearing one of her sister's dresses and having intercourse with Joe on the couch. They saw me and she immediately jumped off of him, quickly putting herself back together to follow me down the hallway. I was done with her as soon as I saw it. I had my suspicions, and they were confirmed for me. Before I could get on the elevator, she slid through the door and started trying to explain herself. I didn't want to listen to her, but I was trapped with her and forced to. She told me that he was there for her when she was grieving, and it just happened the first time. She swore that she wasn't expecting it to happen again while he was visiting. They talked about it, and they both knew it was wrong. But it just happened again. I could tell that she was lying, so I asked to see her phone. She was almost shocked that I asked. I could tell that she wasn't expecting me to fight with her about it. Reluctantly, she handed me her phone. I found the text messages between them, and it confirmed that she was lying. She apologized while I read through it all, but I knew that it wouldn't make a difference. They hooked up for the first time before her sister's funeral. She was at their house helping him look for a funeral dress for her, trying it on herself to see how it would look because they looked so similar. She told me that Joe saw her and something switched in his mind because of how much she looked like his wife. They had did it for the first time while she was trying on dresses for her sister to be buried in. From there, they developed some very strange bond where he practically pretended that my girlfriend was his dead wife. It was seriously messed up. The more she explained, the more disturbed I was with all of it. By the time we got off the elevator, Joe was catching up to us in the lobby of the apartment complex. It took everything in me not to run up to him and attack him. I restrained myself and told my girlfriend that I never wanted to see her again and strongly recommended both of them attend therapy. What they did was beyond troubling. I went to a friend's house and stayed there while I figured out what to do about my living situation. I didn't want to live in the apartment that I walked in and saw that in. While I was thinking about that, I knew I wanted to expose them. They weren't going to make a fool out of me and then continue on with their lives like nothing happened. I figured enough time had passed since her sister's death to tell everyone about how the two closest people in her life had betrayed her after she died. I threw practically her entire family into a group chat without her or Joe, and composed a message explaining everything my girlfriend told me. They were outraged when I told them. Many of them didn't even believe what I said. I had people calling me and screaming, telling me I was a liar and making up horrible things. I swore to them that was the truth. Meanwhile, my girlfriend was blowing up my phone and texting me, asking me if I told her family about her and Joe. I could see that I had accomplished everything I set out to do, so I blocked all of them. It wasn't my problem after that. A few days later, I went back to my apartment to gather my things, and I saw that Joe was still there. He looked like he wanted to kill me. He yelled at me about how he couldn't even go back to his house without worrying that my girlfriend's family was going to hurt him. I didn't care. I just packed my things and left. I haven't spoken to my girlfriend or any of her family members since then. I moved into a new apartment and have started my life over. I feel like I lost a lot of time, committing myself to the wrong person, and now I have to start over.
Thank you for tuning in to Audio Tales AI. If you enjoyed today's story, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these stories coming. Until next time, remember, love, trust, and understanding are the foundation of a great relationship. But betrayal, lust, and deception make for the best YouTube videos.